Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at NDN TV Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button and be the first to get notifications.
The delay in the presentation of three main remaining components of the Petroleum Industry Bill PIB to the National Assembly by the Presidency is giving Niger Deltans cause for worry. Consequently, they are calling on the Presidency to disclose the whereabouts of the PIB and transmit it to the National Assembly for immediate passage owing to its great potentials for transforming the oil and gas industry. Correspondent Tekanami Ofori tells us more.
In December 2008, the Petroleum Industry Bill was introduced in the National Assembly to replace the obsolete Petroleum Act of 1969 and transform the oil and gas sector, which for several decades had been the bulwark of the Nigerian economy. The arrival of the PIB was timely as it sought to achieve the following objectives: strengthen capacity for regulators in the industry, optimize benefits accruing to the federal government, maintain peace and stability in the Niger Delta, and restore investors' confidence in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. In spite of its laudable objectives, several attempts to have the PIB passed had come against a brick wall in the National Assembly. To facilitate its passage, Nigeria's federal lawmakers in 2016 split the PIB into four components: the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, Petroleum Industry Administration Bill, Petroleum Industry Fiscal Bill, and the Petroleum Host and Impacted Communities Bill. In May 2017, the Senate finally passed a revised version of the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill in what was generally applauded as a decisive step taken to sanitize the country's ailing oil and gas industry. However, in August 2018, President Buhari withheld his assent to the bill over constitutional and legal issues. After a long wait on Mr. President to revert to the National Assembly on the PIB, the presidency finally hinted in December 2019 that the proposed legislation will be transmitted to the National Assembly for passage by June 2020. With the National Assembly yet to take delivery of the PIB in the third quarter of 2020, which is already far spent, many Nigerians are getting more curious over the whereabouts of the Petroleum Industry Bill.
Beyond asking, where is the PIB? I think the next question to ask is, who is afraid of the PIB?
You know that if this PIB is eventually passed and it comes into effect, there is a lot that is going to change with respect to the oil and gas sector, and a lot of sharp practices that is being carried out will be checked on the part of the IOCs and of course on the part of the NNPC as it is run today.
Nigeria's oil and gas industry currently accounts for over 80% of the country's foreign exchange, but contributes less than 20% of its gross domestic product, due largely to the challenges of poor governance, maladministration, and declining investment profile in the petroleum sector. This probably explains why in December last year, three major deep offshore fields, Bonga, Owowo, and Preowei, were declared economically non-viable. Based on the current scenario, it is speculated that Nigeria's oil output could further fall as much as 35% if the much-needed reforms are not implemented in the petroleum industry.
If you have a serious sector like the petroleum industry, if you are a serious-minded investor, what you want to look at is to ensure that the laws that are governing that sector is properly, they are properly outlined, and it helps to guide or safeguard investment that people are going to do there.
For over a decade, the PIB has been stalled by what is attributed to stiff opposition from powerful forces averse to meaningful reforms in the oil and gas industry. The uncertainty surrounding the PIB is further heightened by the inability of some federal lawmakers to give account of its whereabouts. According to Honorable Fred Agbedi, representing Sagbama Ekremo Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, the proposed legislation is far from becoming a reality.
I can categorically say PIB is very, very far away. In the last 8th assembly, Sariki and Dogara led the way What did we hear from the executive? The parliament took on the initiative without the executive. So at some point, the executive started fighting back. Even when the consultants had cause to now go around the executive to brief them on the initiative and how far they have gone. Of course, they ended up in scuttling it. I think it's a problem of Nigerian politics. Everybody wants to have free access to the oil industry, oil and gas industry. Government uses it, those who are in power uses it to empower themselves and do whatever they want to do with it. And they feel that if you have the right laws, they won't have access to the oil and gas industry vote. I think that's the politics that is setting us back.
Without a proper legislation in place to reinvent Nigeria's poorly governed oil and gas industry, the country will in no distant time lose its position as a major player in the global oil industry to new emerging oil-producing countries with more attractive petroleum industry laws in sub-Saharan Africa. This underscores the urgent need for the federal government to come out clean on the actual status of the Petroleum Industry Bill and possibly summon the political will to have it passed without further delays in the collective interests of Nigerians.
Inside the Niger Delta,